I'm trying to look at what the Nigerian military has achieved in less than 48 hours of this particular incident, and try to marry that with what you said, that our words should be backed with action.
Yes.
It means, well, we have the capability, but it looks like we have not adequately deployed same to actually fight this terror.
I think you just said that Borno State is the largest state in the country, and that's true. So, and then we have a lot of vast areas. When you look at that, policing that terrain, you find that, again, like you said, you don't have enough manpower to police every square inch of it. But now when there's a concentration of resources, we can make things happen, which is why we have been saying the security architecture needs to be revamped such that it can be a smart architecture. For example, in Chibok, the operation lasted several hours. How many distress calls were made? How many distress calls were made? What is the engagement of the state government, federal government, whoever is out there, with the citizenry in terms of information of how to, providing information on how to respond to things of this nature? That means if you're under attack, who do you call? Okay, thank you, channels. Yesterday you showed some numbers, 081 something 2222, whatever it is. I want a short code. I don't want that lengthy number.
They have a short code now.
That's beautiful. So let's have it out. Put it on billboards. Now, I also asked last time with the force multipliers thing, let us give some phones to certain members of the community who can act as champions for their community. Come on, we have an unusual situation here. We have an unusual. We are not the first to be confronted with this.
If you do that,
we are not.
If you give those who can be champions of communities, they can become targets. How do you work against that?
Well, sir, we have enough patriots in these people. We have in these places. We have enough people who want to lay their lives down to save other citizens. We have people who have families, who have things to defend. So if we take it from that point, then of course nobody will want to volunteer. We want to be able to say, listen, if you see something, press this button and alert us. After all, it's also in their own enlightened self-interest. They will be killed if those guys came in there and spent 4 or 5 hours.
I'm actually looking towards someone definitely must bail the cat. But if the report is that the lines are not working perfectly well in Borno State because of some of the base stations have been blown away.
They destroyed some recently.
Should we also be looking towards having some long-range walkie-talkies for some schools and some communities?
So, again, that's part of, thank you. You are now the security expert. That's part of the security architecture I'm talking about. We have to look at creative ways such that when there's a distress, we cannot police, just get it right, we cannot police every square inch in that place. It's not possible. We don't have the resources. Even the whole of Nigerian army, if they go there, we can't police every square inch. Meanwhile, right now we have JTF operations running in 32 states in the country. So you can see we are spread throughout the country. If you just put the Nigerian map there, you see the military colors all over. Now, having said that, the point being, if we can have a way, I've talked about force multipliers. Now, just this week, I also, in response to the Nyanyan bombing, I said, listen, we need to get beyond this. Let's go to an IED prevention initiative. Again, involving citizens. Everything we have to do must involve citizens.
So it wasn't like as if it was wrong in the very first instance that they went back to school with the assurance that the community was going to stand guard. It was the architecture surrounding that, or the plan around that.
There was no guardian. There was no capable guardian. That's in criminology. It's called a routine activity theory. No capable guardian. The guardian was absent. So that's the problem. So, but now the military, we are happy, rose to the occasion. Some of the children freed themselves. The military went in hot pursuit and seized some of the other kids. And I'm happy that people felt very angry and very engaged and, made things happen. But the point remains that we should not be so reactive to a lot of these things. For example, when we knew that kids were going to come, we know that BH is active in all of these areas. Why is it that it's only after 100 and some kids had been seized that we suddenly woke up and say, oh my goodness, we didn't do what was needful. I mean, it's irresponsible. Really, it's irresponsible.
But we understand that I think 3 weeks ago, the Borno state government had closed most of those secondary schools as a result of this one.
Yes.
And then they were in this boarding school writing their West African examinations, exams, the SSCE, which is quite a little different from that of JAM. But in spite of that, this still happens. So if they had closed all those schools, that's
to
an action.
reduce the exposure.
Is that not part of what they're supposed to have done?
Yeah, but why is it that when we concentrated people in one location, why didn't we protect them in situ? It's easier.
So that's a big
That's
question.
why, yeah,
How come
because
there is
that
no protection?
it's negligence, my dear. It's not just a big question, it's negligence. Because when you say, I want to reduce my risk exposure, what in security we call vulnerability, want to reduce the vulnerability, that is the weak points, by saying we are closing a swath of schools in the area. Now, we are going to concentrate students in a certain area so that they can write and be free of molestation. What you do is you target harden the place that is you are concentrating the students. You don't say the villager, the farmer in the community is going to protect them. I mean, that doesn't wash. That doesn't wash. That's 10 times after thought. That doesn't wash.
Really, we must be proactive. I'm still going by the numbers and also looking at casualty figures that have
not been disclosed.
That should have actually spurred us to do something out of the box. And you talked about billboards. And yesterday, Marilyn Oga gave us the 112, the short code. And by now, things like that, the governments at all levels, local government, federal government, state government, should put them on the billboard and not some other advertisement.
Yes. In fact, I think we're probably not paying attention to what is most important. The most important of government is the safety of its citizens. Number one job. There are other things. You can build roads, you can build bridges, you can build airports. But in our country, it appears we are not quite focused on that. We think that, okay, yes, they destroyed the 100 schools. We've rebuilt the 100 schools. That's important. That's nothing. Why should they destroy 60 buses in the first place? When we knew from New Market Road bombing in Kano, March of 2013, March 18, 2013, we knew from that there were lessons to be learned from that. We knew that we needed to put concrete bollards. Why were they able to park the vehicle? Now, some accounts say it was a ramming, some say it was a parked vehicle. Whatever it was, there was a vehicle that was where it wasn't supposed to be. Where is the CCTV picture from where we can see that? Local government is collecting a lot of money from bus terminals all over. The state government is exerting its own leverage, whatever, in this case, FCT administration. And nobody is doing anything to protect our citizens ahead of time, even when the threats are so evident, when the threats are glaring in our faces. Now, I'm not talking about risk. Risk is just the probability of occurrence of an unsavory event. Threat, now, that's imminent danger. When here we are, we're looking at imminent danger, we're just waiting for somebody to walk through the door and shoot.
Because we don't have,
it doesn't make any sense.
If we don't have all of this from the grassroots to the top, then the security operatives can actually operate. The
security operatives need the grassroots to be able to operate. How do you think American security works? It's the citizens that call the police. They are not spirits. They are not everywhere. The policemen are always in donut shops, eating donut and drinking coffee. Then when there's a call, you were just in New Orleans. When there's a call, they go out there and they respond to it. Ability to get to that site on time. Nyanyan bombing again. They went out there. You couldn't get to the site because citizens are taking over the place because of delayed response, not getting to that place, in good time. Where were the choppers carrying people out?
Do we have an account of?
We were more interested in carrying cadavers out, carrying dead bodies away, rather than saving those who were injured.
Because in this
it's irresponsible.
For instance, this one in Chibok, where it was reported that they came in large numbers, burned houses,
about 200,
carted away food items.
And chicken too.
Yeah, no account of any citizen calling anybody, any emergency response?
Chamberlain,
Something
that's my
is missing.
problem. There's something missing. It's the architecture. It's not. Look, sir, for a security system to work, I just have a short story for you. I asked a judge in the U.S. where I was recently. I said, "Ma'am, how come you give all these heavy judgments, but you are walking around like any other person? You are not scared, nothing." He said, "Not. I just call my 911. Anybody bothers me, I call 911, and they'll be in jail faster than they know it, because that's the security architecture. You call 911, somebody will be there to respond. It's not, but because they know, they've been trained right from little. You are trained to call when you have an emergency. Okay, now GSM Miracle has put phones in the hands of almost everyone, including rural dwellers. My folks in the village, they call me every time. They call me more than even my friends in the city call me. So how come...
You happen to be their 911.
I'm not sure about that, Chamberlain. How come we can't train our people to call 911, even in their own local languages? Now, in my National IED Prevention Initiative, I said they should have call centers manned, even with people who can speak the local languages. And you should have call centers all over the place, and you can train them. These are not things that take years. It's not a lot of money. We're not talking about, giving out contracts or buying this thing. It is something to serve people, to save lives. I think that's important.
Even if it's going to take a lot of money, you should invest in that and make sure that this becomes a thing of the past, so that we can as well help others.
Move on with our lives.
Move on with our lives
and develop this country
and help others. But now we actually looks like we need help. Do we?
Well, I think we have all the capability to help ourselves, even from what I listen to you young men say here on television, and I watch you online too, even when I'm in the US. We have all the help we can get here. I think we just have to, through this medium, for example, educate our leaders that there is a responsibility for them to do something, lead us, or even, and I love the president's comments the other day. He said, we must become security aware. I mean, he was so emphatic on that. And I hope that some officials in the government, be it Interior, be it National Security Advisor's Office, wherever those powers lie, and all these powers, what the president said can be given expression in all these offices, all of them, including the police agency. And certainly like what you did yesterday with Marilyn Olga, that was good. She came out here and gave some, or she was online with you, and she gave some tips. A few people will pick that up. But beyond just speaking that morning on that program, these things should now be documented and then put out there, put online, put on billboards, put on radio jingles, put on TV jingles.
Where is the NOA in all of this, orientation agency?
Well, I'm sorry, it appears to be missing, but that's another story. But let's first deal with
how would you rate?
BH.
We're always saying, if you see anything, call these
Yes,
numbers,
yes.
Give tips.
Yes.
The public should be responsible.
Yes.
How would you rate the architecture for the public to give tips?
Thank you, Madam. I appreciate that question. You see, it stands on three legs. Anytime you say multipliers, anytime you say hotlines, people assume that hotlines means just that, hotlines, you just call and somebody will answer. No. First of all, you must educate. Well, in the case of very rural communities like where we have in the emergency zone now, Adamawa, Borno, and Yobe, you actually need to give lines too. You need to give lines. Now, what I have said several times, even on your program here, is if we could give lines to farmers for fertilizers, why can't we give lines for security of lives and property? I'm not talking about a lot of lines. I'm talking about these 5,000 or 3,000 naira cheap phones, and programmed only to call emergency numbers. Okay, so what I'm saying, the capability must be there. Somebody must have the technology to call. Those calls must be received, and then that's the next level, the second tier. The second tier is who is going to receive those calls. You must have professional, well-trained people with language capability who can elicit information about the nature of the emergency. Now, when this is done, and it should all be voice logged, that means there must be audit trail recording, and then there must be then dispatch to whoever is the responding authority. That is the police, well, certainly not the police this time, the JTF or whoever has the arms there and can give a credible response. And that should also be voice logged so that there will be accountability.
Yeah, but we have to commend the military and all those who were involved in rescuing.
Oh, no, that was fantastic. That was picture perfect.
It was the kind of response the country has been calling
That
for.
was, and you see, it's an instant validation. Once that happens, people are like, oh yes, okay. In fact, if this is known, then something will happen.
It means that whatever template was used is encouraging. We can build on that and see how they can deploy that in whichever area is troubled and see how they can involve everybody in this
Chamberlain,
war.
I still take a proactive and preventive template to a reactive template.
All right then, Dr. Ona Ekhomu, the security consultant, thank you very much indeed for coming on today.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, well, back after this, we'll have all the matters coming up, so please join us again.